Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast.
Yep, all good.
Okay. Alrighty. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and it has happened, people. We have had a response, an official response, I should say. We've been talking to them for quite a bit, but an official response from the UK government to our petition.
Pretty snazzy. Yeah, pretty cool to actually get, members of government replying to little old us.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And, publicly as well. That's sort of the key thing, because obviously I've met and talked to several MPs now and a couple of civil servants, but it's all been off the record, as it were. You know, they haven't sort of committed to anything or said anything, and that makes it sound like they've committed to fuck all here, which they haven't. But they have at least made some, I guess, positive noises. Is that probably the best way to sort of gauge the response?
I think it's pretty positive in terms of what they're saying will happen next, and getting the community together to put a proposal forward for why it should be given its status. I thought it was good. I mean,
so I guess I was pretty underwhelmed by it, but I kind of expected I would be, because this is all stuff we know.
Yeah.
The government is setting up an inventory to recognise intangible heritage in the UK. Yeah, you announced that last year. We will open a public call later this year, which is actually less precise than we've been told before. So we were told spring. Obviously, spring is happening. And then somebody told me summer last week. And now they're saying this year, which makes me a little bit concerned. They say they would welcome a submission on cask scale. They'd probably say that about pretty much everything except for a submission on, I don't know, marijuana growth. But I mean, there are interesting rumblings in there, and I think that it's good at least that they are committing to that, or recommitting to that again.
Definitely, 100%.
To give a bit more context, so you can go to the petition, you can read the response, and anybody that's already signed the petition will have received that response. It's important to say, if you're listening to this and you haven't signed, please do still sign, because we want to reach 100,000 signatories, and that will get us a debate in Parliament. And at that point, it's not just that they debate what you put forward in the petition. You meet with somebody from the committee, one of the MPs on the petitions committee, and you can give them extra information for them to inform that debate. So we could then go to them and say, actually, we're fairly certain we're going to get national recognition. We want to talk about UNESCO in this debate, and they might allow that. So there's still lots to be gained by getting to 100,000. But essentially what is going to happen, and what we already knew before this response, is that there is going to be the application process opening at some point this year, hopefully in the summer, when we will be able to apply. We've been told by the civil servant running the project that it will be what he called a relatively low bar of entry. So there's not going to be huge... we're not going to have to supply swathes of evidence like we would have to UNESCO. We're not going to have to demonstrate the commitment of the entire industry to this UNESCO to the national certification. It's going to be relatively easy. You've just got to tick some boxes, I think. And they've sort of made that clear. And the other thing they haven't mentioned is that I believe that if you get that certification, the national certification, they will set up a committee to give the sort of the members of whatever culture it is the access to government to discuss issues and concerns, which, you know, will be brilliant for Morris dancing, weavers, all these kind of, you know, very small examples of cultural heritage that probably don't have a lobby group attached to them. But of course, cask ale has CAMRA, SEBA, BBPA, BII. I feel like I'm missing one there. We have lots of lobbying groups that are trying to protect the interests of the industry. So a committee, which I presume would include, to be fair, would hopefully to include, you know, some brewers, some academics, some, for want of better words, influencers, like less kind of professional lobbyists. I don't think that's going to be of huge help. So I'm not really interested in the national designation or what they've put forward as the purpose for it. So now that we've got this response, we push on to 100,000 and we push on to say why shouldn't beer be the first thing that we put to UNESCO in a couple of years? That's got to be the new focus. So yeah, massive thanks to everybody. First step, boom. Next step, you know, we're still, what are we, 85,000 signatures away from the next important step. And we have plans to try and get that high. You know, it's clear that we haven't got the word out in the way that we wanted, and we haven't got our messaging right to convert people as well, because we were on ITV News last week, The Observer last week. This week we've been in The Times, The Daily Mail, and there was a local paper that somebody from Cask Marks sent me as well. So the word is getting out there, but it's not necessarily getting us the head of steam that we need. So there's lots more to do, and hopefully CAMRA are going to be a big part of that as sort of festival season kicks in. So that's sort of what we're focusing on. And of course, all the other content we've got about cask ale coming out later. We've got until the 1st of October, so I'm not sweating it yet. We're just behind where we need to be in terms of signatories per day. But yeah, a response from the government. Wonderful news.
Yeah, I think it is wonderful news, Johnny. It sounded a little bit of negative points there, but I think overall it's pretty fantastic. And thanks everyone who's helped us get over the line to the first goal. And now it's just about converting your friends and neighbours and all becoming evangelists for the cause, getting those posters up in your local pubs and getting the word out there to the wider audience, wider community.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody out there that has signed the petition can now go out and over the next 5 months find 5 friends who haven't signed it to sign it. So partners, parents, siblings, just ask them all. It would take them 1 minute to sign this. Hopefully they care, but I don't necessarily care if they do. But if all the people that have signed it so far can find 5 friends in 5 months, then we're over 100,000, which sounds incredibly simple. And my experience of campaigning and crowd cubing and all this kind of stuff shows that that's nowhere near as easy as it sounds, but it is very doable.
Oh yeah.
From that initial burst that you good folk have given us. So
we've got to dress up as like pintsmen, like Spider-Man, but we'll be dressed as pints or something. We'll climb the building to publicity.
One of us could dress as a pint, and one of us could dress as a beer engine with a swan neck.
Yeah,
and then
we'll do something stunty.
Yeah,
and have a giant roll-out banner.
Yeah,
Justice for Cask,
which is a giant bar towel.
Yeah. Oh well, I've already got one of those, haven't I? So it's Justice for Cask rather than Justice for Dads.
Yes,
that was Spider-Man guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a movement we really want to associate ourselves with. I don't think they were particularly nice dads. If I remember correctly.
I don't know. I don't even know. I just remember Spider-Man guy.
Yeah, did he climb the Houses of Parliament or something like that?
Yeah,
can't quite remember.
I think so. Or like Big Ben or something absolutely mental. He climbed something.
Well, that is the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, that particular bit of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Oh, so right up to the top. You mean? Yeah, I don't quite remember, but that was. Yeah, weird how that was so. I guess because we were kids and it was Spider-Man climbing a building. Maybe that's why it was so burned in our conscience. It was like, oh my god, Spider-Man exists and he's a an angry divorcee. So yeah, huge thanks to everybody. There's loads more stuff coming your way, but actually this week we've slightly managed to move along, haven't we? Move on with our lives.
We've been filming some non-cask videos for your eyeballs coming to a craft beer channel near you sometime soon.
Actually, thinking about it, I think this week is the first week in probably 6 or 7 months that I haven't had a pint of cask.
There you go. But don't listen to Johnny out there. Everyone go and drink a pint of cask.
Well, I like to think I've done my bit for a bit.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah,
probably let my liver have a break, which we definitely didn't do on our shoot day yesterday at the Beer Merchants Tab.
No, I've lost count of how many videos we filmed, but we filmed lots of videos.
We filmed 4 plus a new Patreon pitch, so 4.5.
4.5 videos.
Yeah. So one of them is another Beers That Changed the World episode to support the release of my paperback next week. And the other 3 were Under the Radars. So Brad and I haven't had time to get back out there. We fully intend to this year to get back out there and start making documentaries about small British, modern craft breweries, because I know that's kind of our bread and butter and what people love to see. But we thought that a quick fix for that would be to make some under the radars of some great smaller breweries that don't get the love and attention that they deserve, and to give them some of that attention. So we have, maybe I won't spoil what the breweries are, but 3 amazing breweries doing very different things from their contemporaries. There won't just be sort of talk about hazy IPA. There's lots of, there's Rauch beer. There's a American Saison, which is not a phrase we really use anymore.
Oof.
There was lots of lager, lots of great British lager consumed.
I drank an exceptionally good lager called Maybe Perfect. It was very good.
I think you called it a perfect beer. Yeah.
Perfect pint. It was excellent.
So that will be sort of trickling out in the midst of a lowbrow that we've got planned, and obviously our cask ale content, and hopefully a blind taste test that I'm starting to work on. I've started ordering the beer, but the blind taste test is going to be, essentially, I'm getting all of the breweries that have ever received what I would, in my mind, call hype, and I'm getting their sort of core IPA, but which I'm defining as, it doesn't have to be available all year round, but it has to be a recurring beer. And I'm going to blind taste test them all, so it'll be sort of the hype IPA blind taste test to see A, which of them really stands up in a blind taste test environment, but B, just to sort of see how much variation and difference there really is, or if there's something we can tease out. These are the most popular New England IPAs in the country, can we work out why, kind of thing. So it's not necessarily pitting them against each other, but trying to learn something from them all. But obviously that involves ordering single cans from lots of different breweries. So I've been figuring that out and trawling my local bottle shops whenever I see one from a brewery that I want to include. So that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks as well, hopefully, if I can track them all down.
I would say Patreon family as well, if you're listening. Send Johnny any recommendations of hype juice that he should put in the video.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd take
all over social. Let me know what breweries you think should be on that list. So I think currently there's Verdant, there's Cloudwater, there's Track, there's Colonel, there's Northern Monk, there's can my brain keep moving? Daya, yep. Asvex, Drop Project. I feel like I'm missing something from up north that's very obvious. Yes. Oh my God, the Newcastle Wylam. So yeah, that's sort of the list that we're working to at the moment. But if there's anybody that you think has received a lot of love, Northern Raptor, obviously, Neon Raptor,
Neon.
Yeah. So we'll be getting all of these breweries in there. And yeah, comparing them, probably, I don't know, maybe some people's evenings are just filled with one New England IPA after another from hype breweries, but mine is very much less than it used to be. That used to be the way I drank 6-7 years ago, and now I drink a much more diverse list, and drinking a lot of the 3 breweries that we talked about, because mostly I just bought increasingly I'm seeing on brewery websites like the brewer's case or the curated case, which I like to buy because I also like to know what the brewer actually thinks is their best beer. So I've got about 3 of those cases, which if I had room in my bag, I'd have brought some more for you, Bradley. So maybe I'll keep some cold and deliver them next time we see each other, because it's too much beer for me on top of the other beer that I have, as we know, too much of. But yeah, so not only did we do a shoot day in which we didn't drink any cask, we also did a video this week, which, sorry, my daughter is knocking at me through the window to say hello. And now she's run off with a watering can it was full of water. Now it's everywhere. Anyway, yes, so we did a video that involved no drinking of cask, although we did do a good 10-minute interview about cask ale, which we then couldn't fit into Keep Cask Alive. But we were at Delisen.
Amazing brewery. Amazing man. Just cool. The coolest. Great knowledge. Innovation. Just mind-boggling stuff. That we've been on so many brewery tours and genuinely learnt so much listening to him and his reasoning on decisions, why certain vessels were certain shapes and heights, and how much headspace was left for just, not for funsies, but for like, could fill tanks higher, but it wouldn't be as good. A result, like, just amazing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all sort of stuff that I've heard, but in different breweries and different styles, right? So I've never really considered headspace with Belgian ale. I'm not really sure why, because it obviously makes a huge amount of sense, and also the temperature differentiation when coming up to the boil, and wondering, hazy IPA producers don't necessarily consider that, although I do remember when I interviewed Vinny at Russian River, he'd made some changes in his brew house because he was aware that, Pliny wasn't being drunk particularly fresh, and he needed to be aware of the aging effect of basically having a very hot element in the kettle, and the impact that would have on how a beer aged. But what was really interesting, and it was right up the front, and it's why we got to the brutal so quickly in that video, because I wanted to get to this point, is his lovely little phrase where he said, like, I think of brewing as a series of choices about the technology that you use, which I think is a really interesting way of looking at it, and not a way that I'd really sort of looked at it. And also this idea that where you put your technology will change the kind of the beer that you're capable of making. So if you put all your technology in the brew house, you're going to be more capable of extremely precise brewing. If you put all of your technology into fermentation, you're going to be capable of, very diverse kind of flavors and stuff from your yeast. And if you put all of your technology into your packaging, well, you should just put as much technology into your packaging as possible. But it was an interesting sort of approach to talking about brewing that I hadn't really heard before. And yeah, like you said, we've done, and like we said in the video, we've done over 1,000 brewery tours in our lives, and managed to learn quite a lot from this one, which is definitely not always the case. And I really wish, sometimes you walk away from a shoot and we're like, we've got something cool there. And sometimes you walk away and you're like, I'm not sure we nailed that. And my experience was entirely coloured by the fact that halfway through that shoot, we got that email from Brighton Football Club saying they couldn't approve our video.
Hey, yeah.
And so I was super stressed and worried and trying to work out what to do. And I sort of, when we left, I was like, I don't think we've got it in the bag. And, I wish we could have tried some more beers with Ivan, and I wish we could have got a bit more B-roll of the brewing and of the tap room and of the beers themselves. But in terms of the conversation, Ivan did us a huge solid. He was relentlessly fascinating.
Big time. Yeah, I mean, the man's maybe a bit of a genius, and takes inspiration and gives credit to a lot of British brewing, as well as other sort of influences around the world, from his brew kit to philosophy and everything. It was just a great kind of melting pot of excellent things about beer, that place.
I think, melting pot's the right idea. Like we talked about all the different places he takes inspiration from. And it wasn't on camera. We were talking about Zena Pils. So that's their lager, which is, and I don't think I've ever said this about a Belgian lager, fantastic. like genuinely incredible. I absolutely love that beer. It's one of my favorite lagers at the moment. And I said as much to him. I was like, I absolutely love this beer. It's so unlikely for it to have come from. I mean, I didn't say so unlikely to come from a Belgian brewery, but it's so rare for beers of that type and of that quality to come from a brewing nation that typically focuses on higher ABV, super estery kind of beers. And he said, well, some of the credit has to go to the head brewer of Schönrammer, who brewed it with me. So it's almost like that was a collaboration beer, but he knew where to go for the expertise to make that. And, if he ever made a British bitter, he'd probably go to, Miles at Harvey's or something. He's somebody that really understands that knowledge is not just process and reading a book. It's the experience of the people that have made it that will elevate it.
100%.
Yeah, and like I say, I didn't know how good the video was until I edited it together and was like, oh, that's pretty good. And you watched the edit and were like, that's pretty good. And then the comments have just been effusive in their praise, mostly of Ivan, which is what I want. But I was so heartened to see that because I was worried about what the response would be to it. And, sometimes you've got something good and you put it out into the world and people think it's crap. But this time I was like, this is a good interview. And everyone agrees. And that's been great. And you can see the algorithm it's even ticked up a little bit in the algorithm because people, I guess, have watched more of it than maybe they would of some other videos we've done. Because he's just fascinating. But there is one comment I want to dig into, which is less complimentary.
Oh.
And I want to front this up by saying I absolutely respect everything that this person is saying. And we had a long conversation of both of us writing essays back to each other, which I won't obviously read out all of that, but I'll read out the original one because I want to get your take on it, Bradley. Mm-hmm. So this comment comes from Dark Wild Saison.
Okay.
Who says, sorry, but it's another video where Johnny says that dryness is not a typical trait of Belgian beer, and I just don't follow that logic. Doubles, triples, and quads are all dry, and a lot drier than other strong ales from other countries. Saisons, often bone dry, the benchmark style of dry beer. Even wit beers are pretty dry compared to similar strength ales from around the world. And then there are Flanders Reds and Browns and Gueuses. If Belgium, home of STA1 positive strains, Brett, Lacto, PDO, etc., isn't the home of dry beer, then I don't know what is.
Okay.
So it's a pretty strong argument. I wouldn't say Saisons are the benchmark of a dry beer, partly because Saisons are so hard to define, but a lot of them are extremely dry. Wit beers are not. They're just not. Flanders Reds, Browns, and Gueuses are, of course, very dry. Pretty much all of the sugar's been sucked out by the various mixed fermentations. Doubles, triples, and quads is an interesting thing where I've been, chatting for a long time with Dark Wild Saison about final gravities of these beers, which do seem to vary quite a bit, but in my experience are pretty high. From recipes that I've seen both at professional breweries and homebrew recipes that I've worked to, you're not going to find, in my experience, a double or Westmalle triple I think is very dry, but doubles and quads below 10, 12, 13, 14, and that compared to, say, a Czech Pilsner or even an English Porter or a German Pilsner, that's not dry. It's not as dry. But we ended up sort of arguing. So Dark Wild Saison was very much talking about FGs, and he was trying to compare, triples to something similar in ABV, which was not what I was trying to do. I was trying to say Belgian beers are perceived as sweet because essentially of the triple and the blondes, which taste quite sweet. Compare that to the main styles of the Czech Republic. Even though it's a very different beer, these beers are very dry. We couldn't quite connect on that, but he was arguing very much on a technical standpoint, and I was trying to say that I think most people, if you said what does Belgian beer taste like, I think that sweetness would be one of the things they pointed to first, or am I wrong?
I think so. I think most people think they're really big beers, and they're oftentimes very sweet beers as well. And sort of part of the reason how they've got that big is because they've they've got a lot of sugar kind of going on to kind of give them their size.
So like because this is something the Dark Wild Saison mentions. He's like, a lot of the time they use sugar, which sounds like it should make it sweet, but it actually makes it drier because you get a stronger beer, but all of the sugar is fermented out, which isn't true of malt sugar. Some of those malt sugars are left behind. The issue I had is that sugar is not the only way that a beer ends up tasting sweet. You've got the esters, potentially the phenols, although many of those are sort of more sort of dry, less sweet kind of smelling. You've also got alcohol itself, which adds the perception of sort of sweetness and syrupiness and booziness, which is kind of sweet. You've then got, I think, particularly with doubles and quads, you've got speciality malts that taste of caramel and dates and figs and raisins that in your brain make you think it's sweet.
Let's not forget Belgian, fruited beers as well. They've actually got fruit in them.
Yeah, so
they're sweet. They're sour, but they're sweet as well.
So absolutely, most Belgian lambics are as dry as a beer can get, but most of the lambic sold is then back sweetened with aspartame or stevia or whatever it is, and those are the ones that do the serious volume. So I don't know. I think, and I'd be really interested to see like people in the Patreon forum. I'd love people to weigh in on this. Whether even if final gravity wise, literal sugar left in the beer wise, it's not that different, or even it's potentially a little bit lower. Like even Westmalle Triple has a sweetness to it. There's no denying that I don't think you find in, say, a West Coast IPA, unless it's incredibly crystal or Munich heavy. It's really interesting that somebody could disagree so vehemently on something that I sort of perceived as a fundamental truth. People think Belgian beer tastes sweet. It was a real surprise to me, which is why I really enjoyed the conversation, to hear an entirely different viewpoint. And I was also sort of trying to say that, reds and browns and Guerzes and Saisons are often very dry, but that's such a small segment of that market. If you say to somebody Belgian beer, they're not thinking of Saison or Lambic unless they're a proper beer geek. Most people would think of Lef, Duvel, potentially Stella. We put a short live on TikTok, which it's got like 15,000 views. It's done really well about why Belgian beer is so strong. And somebody's just put, I love Stella. And like, good for you. It's not really what we're talking about, but clearly that association of Stella and Belgium is as far as they've got, and that's fine. But we get stuck in our bubbles arguing about the sweetness of Belgian beer and forget that actually most people, when I say Belgian beer, think, oh yeah, Stella Artois.
Yeah.
Which I think even Stella Artois I would perceive as a little bit sweeter than some lagers. But which I think is maybe not so much anymore now. It's not 5.1 when we were not kids, teens? It was over 5.
It was over 5. Had to be over 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it did feel sweeter as a result of that. I think I could be wrong. Also, I think Stella is maybe full malt. I'd need to check.
Don't know
that,
about
actually.
that. Yeah.
It might be 100% malt, or it might, it could have adjuncts. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I appreciate Dark Wild Saison's opinion and thoughts, and really appreciate them really getting involved in that. There's a whole long conversation back and forth if people want to get involved in that. I was trying to write an op-ed for Pellicle about our campaign, and this was great procrastination. So I really appreciate having that. So do dig that out if you want to. Yeah. So yeah, one of the most enlightening videos I think we've done in a long time, and considering how quickly we knocked it together, it makes you wonder why we spent so much time on the Keep Cask Alive ones.
Wow, we're trying to save the Great British Pub, Johnny. That's why we're trying to build a groundswell that's gonna have a lasting impact. I mean, imagine if we change, the kind of perception of beer in the country for the better, and get it recognised on a sort of world scale, next to such products as French
Stella Artois.
baguettes.
Oh,
and
French baguettes.
But you know what I mean. Like if we, I think I'd be a happy man if I knew that I'd been involved and played a big part in changing things for the better for something that we love and we hold dear. Like what higher kind of achievement could you have? It's pretty up there. It's pretty fantastic.
I completely agree. I was being facetious.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to mention the pub. I got robbed. My garden got robbed yesterday, Johnny. I've lost about £1,000 worth of tools. Pretty shocking stuff. But I'm still very happy that, the same day that happened, the government had an official response to our campaign. I think it's amazing. So big pat on the back to us.
A little ray of light on a very tough day for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm feeling pretty bummed out.
That. And if anybody has Brad's tools, give them the fuck back.
Oh, they got the people in the car.
Oh wow, did they?
Yeah, they had a car chase. They crashed, and a police dog bit one of them.
Oh my god! You didn't tell me any of this.
Go.
Wow.
Yeah, this is all been going on. It all happened in the middle of the night last night. I don't know what's going on past that point, but I know some divine retribution. Something struck them with some furious
vengeance,
and a dog bit him.
Wow!
Because he nicked all of my shit. So fuck that guy. But yeah, so I don't think I'm getting my stuff back, but at least I've got the satisfaction in knowing that maybe some justice was done.
Yeah.
Not the biting. Sorry, I'm not condoning the biting as justice, but like people getting caught for being arseholes and stealing stuff. It's not cool. So anyway, sorry to bring this up, but I felt like I'm having such a poo time. The same day that we had a great shoot day, I met up with some friends. I was having a beer afterwards, and then this thing happened. So it's like life throws stuff at you, man. You got to hold on to the good things and make the most of them while you can, and that includes cask ale and your local
from the
pub.
Government.
And a response from the government.
Local pub, yeah.
So go hold on to your loved ones. Hold on to your tools.
And your garden tools, yeah.
Don't let anyone get them from you. And I'm going to go and drink a pint.
It's a real life lesson
later to try and soothe my my anguish. But yeah,
have a nice cask ale down at the Dog and Bell.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully.
Toast to that police dog. We've got to stop encouraging violence. To your credit, you sent me that note just saying, oh, yeah, don't know when I'm going to be able to pod today because of what's happened. And then it was literally like 5 minutes later, you were like, but look, we got a response from the government. So, Yeah. Right, well, because Brad has lots to do, that's all we've got time for this week. All that's left to say is that we will have a video next week. It is the Beers That Built the World episode I mentioned earlier, all about Hofbräuhaus, where we can also relive our visit that we had there 2 years ago now, Bradley. We went there. So it's about time we revisited.
Love to.
Also, I would imagine if we're recording on Friday next week, I'm going to be monstrously hungover. So Thursday night is the Fortnum Mason Awards, and the book is up for Drinks Book of the Year. So I'm either going to have celebrated too hard or commiserated too hard and hopefully not made a fool of myself to Stanley Tucci. But if I do, I'll console myself by saying, well, that's a good story for the pod.
Don't touch you to Tucci unless he tells you to.
Can't Tucci this.
Yeah. Don't touch you to Tucci unless he tells you to. There you go. That's a pod name for you.
We found it right at the death. Cool, yeah. So we'll see you on Wednesday with lots of talk about how Hofbräuhaus enabled the Nazis, and then on Friday we'll be laughing at me, probably, and my antics at the Fortnum Mason Awards. But until then, look after yourself, hold your tools closely, and yeah, from me and Brad, love and beer. The The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel, and if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.